During my off time when I'm not coming up with nonsensical stuff for you guys to listen to, I am a travel agent. Okay, not really, but I do think of myself as a pretty good aficionado when it comes to underrated. And the SEC is going to have a ton of must-see matchups on Saturdays this fall that a lot of these games are going to be flying under the radar. And I figured, well, if I was planning a road trip for SEC Unfiltered, I would want to go see every underappreciated game in 2024. And so I MapQuest things out. I figured these are the games every week that will continue to fly under the radar, but need to be talked about a little bit more in a prominent light. So let's go and discuss what's going on SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like the video. Hit the ring notification down below. That way you don't miss a single episode of SECU. Download the podcast version of the show. Leave a 5-star review if you love this type of content. A 1-star review if you hate this type of content. Make sure that also you're following us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. If you want me to actually go on this fictional road trip, go ahead and follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson, and I'll stop by and say hi to you in your favorite hometown. And make sure that also you're checking all of our great workout at secunfiltered.com. This episode of SECU is brought to you by Roadback. Use promo code SECU for 20% off all joggers, polos, hoodies, shorts, much, much more. Look good, feel good this upcoming fall with Roadback.com by using the promo code SECU. So like I said, this is a fictional road trip, unless you guys want me to really take it, and I actually potentially will. But this is the most underappreciated game per week in the SEC. And I try to make this as fair as possible where I wasn't going back to one location after another. So let's dive in. Week 1, it's actually right up the road from me. No, not College Station. Austin, Texas. Colorado State versus the University of Texas. It's a new era of Longhorn football. They're beginning a chapter in the SEC that is headlined by a Heisman potential quarterback in Quinn Ewers, but they're breaking in a ton of new talent at both sides of the football. Bill Norton on the defensive line, Andrew Mukuba on the back end and the secondary. At wide receiver, Jonte let him cook. You got to throw in Isaiah Bond. You got to throw in Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden, killing it in camp right now. You got a brand new tight end in Amari Niblack. You got a brand new right tackle in Cam Williams. And all of this to say, you're trying to set a tone and a standard and not look ahead, because if you play Michigan in the Big House in week 2, and all sides going to be on that game, Gus Johnson's going to be on the call. We already know what he does. He's going to be definitely coming up with some puns that I really wish I was quick enough to think of, but I'm not. You don't want to look ahead. And I do think that when you have a wide receiver like Torrey Horton that continues to fly under the radar at the national perspective, this is a moment where you could find yourself similar to the Wyoming game last year, where it just feels like you're not able to pull away until late in the fourth quarter. New era of SEC football. It's going to be a rocking and rolling moment for DKR as they embrace being a part of the SEC. I'd want to make that trip over to Austin. And then in week 2, I'm going to go travel more West Coast. Because yes, there are some really fun games, including, like I just said, Texas versus Michigan. But every once in a while, you got to see a team come away with the win. And this might be one of the few that Mississippi State gets when they travel to Tempe, Arizona to take on the Sun Devils and second-year head coach Kenny Dillingham. I really don't know what to make of this Bulldog roster. I'm not going to try and act like that I am a guru when it comes to Starkville football. But what I can say is I know for a fact that if the go-go offense of what you want with the vertical passing attack from Jeff Levy is potent, they can do damage on the West Coast, Best Coast. You don't know what you're getting in Arizona State this year. Jaden Rashada decided to hightail it on out of there and speed his way on over to Athens to sit behind Carson Beck and compete for the starting job next season. But you don't know what the Sun Devils are. And for Mississippi State, every win counts, because you're not guaranteed by many of folk, including yours truly, to do much in the SEC. Now, I will give you the benefit of the doubt, Bulldogs fans, before you come with the pitchforks and torches. I have you winning an SEC game, unlike some people on this channel. But at the same time, every win counts. If that offense is volatilely potent and can vertically stretch the field, and what we know Levy likes to do with getting plays out on quickest time, yeah, I think that you actually win this game. Road environments are tough, but it is the Big 12. And you know what? You should be able to beat up on the Big 12. Week 3, we already know that we're going to see a major matchup in Madison, Wisconsin between Alabama and the Badgers. We also know that we're going to get a game in Gainesville against Florida and Texas A&M. I almost went to Norman, Oklahoma on this trip because I do want to give credit to the Green Wave. They made one of the best hires of the offseason. But I would be remiss if I'm not making a trip over to Columbia, South Carolina to go visit the Gamecocks as they take on LSU. Offense and defense, offense and defense, offense and defense. Cole, who are you talking about? Both teams, if I'm being completely transparent. For LSU, how does this offense look against a very potent defense headlined by 9 returning starters, including Tonka Hemingway and including Nicky Moriarty in the secondary? How do you go ahead and work if you're Garrett Nussmeier, stretching the field and elevating the passing attack with CJ Daniels, with Kyron Lacey? How does the offensive line look? How do you feel about the run game? How do you have that breakout player for a highlight moment at Willie B that ends up breaking headlines and sending the stratosphere into new heights? That's what I want to see. But on the flip side, I can say the exact same thing about Lenore Sellers going up against a defense that has a ton of question marks. I am very susceptible and a bit higher than most on LSU's defense because I believe that if you can't get the right players, better get the right personnel. And there is no better unit that upgraded this offseason in terms of coaches than the Bayou Bengals. So how does that unit actually translate against a very mobile, very active, very physical quarterback who wears rec specs and looks damn good doing it, Lenore Sellers, plus potentially taking on Rocket Sanders, who may be ready to blast off into the end zone for 6 points? This is a game that can go back and forth pretty early on. And this is a game that I also think could carry a lot of weight when it comes to the overall records, because we have no idea who the hell is getting into the college football playoff and how many SEC teams will be represented. You don't want to lose a matchup to a team that might be susceptible if you're LSU. Or maybe this is the kick in the nuts that you actually need if you're South Carolina. And who knows, perhaps you're sitting at 3-0 with a win over Kentucky. Moving on to week 4. Yeah, I know. Heupel's return to Norman is going to be a must-see spectacle. I also know that you got some other big-time matchups ahead that certainly are going to carry a lot of weight, but I want to make the trip right on over to the plains of Auburn, Jordan-Hare Stadium, because I actually think that Arkansas versus the Tigers is going to be a spectacle beyond belief in favor of Hugh Freeze. I've made this pretty clear. I think Taylon Green is an awesome quarterback. If you go ahead and watch his highlight film on YouTube at 3 a.m, I promise you, you will enjoy yourself. It will be a memory that you will unlock a core of playing like EA college football back in 2014. But I don't believe in the Razorbacks. I think that they are pulled pork sandwiches ready to be devoured by any opponent they go up against this year. I'm not sold that they did enough. I am sold that Auburn can be a roster on the rise, and I do believe that they have the personnel, especially with newcomers added in via the portal on the offensive side, that are going to be massive upgrades. You get Percy Lewis to come on over from Mississippi State. He now stabilizes your left tackle spot. You get Robert Lewis to come on over and play in the slot. He may be able to take some pressure off of Keandre Lambert-Smith, Perry Thompson, and 5-star phenom Cam Coleman. You still have a good rushing attack. You added in some decent players on the defensive front. I think for Auburn, this is a game that you have to win because this is going to be the crossing lanes. Strike that. What am I trying to say? This is going to be the fork in the road. There we go. That's what I was trying to get to. For Peyton Thorne, you play well in this game. Well, congratulations. You get to beat QB1 in SEC country. You don't. There's 3 guys waiting in the wings that definitely are pushing you forward to try and go ahead and earn that first team rep. And maybe that's exactly why Hugh Freeze didn't go into the portal and get another quarterback, because he realized I got 3 dudes that might be able to push him to new heights. Let's go on to week 5. I think this is an underrated game because it's the first real matchup for this team in what is regularly a preseason for them. Kentucky going on over to Oxford, Mississippi. Head on down to the Grove, enjoy a mint julep, and then head into Vaught Hemingway Stadium to watch the Ole Miss Rebels take on the Wildcats. I believe Kentucky is a very underappreciated team. I believe that right now, if they're not a baseball school, they sure as hell are a football school, and they're not a basketball school until further notice. I don't care what BYU's coach did during his time with the Cougars. This is the Wildcats. A little bit of a different blue and a little bit of a different blue blood feel on the court. Regardless, Brock Vandagriff, in an alternate reality, as I believe in the multiverse, is the starting quarterback for Georgia. And Carson Beck's in the transfer portal. And Stetson Bennett's a nobody and is already a used car salesman somewhere in Athens, Georgia, remembering his highlight days, because Vandagriff was that good of a QB that he beat out both of them. So what if he is that good of a QB in Bush Hannon's system? And what if, because of Ole Miss's preseason of a schedule, where they got games against Wake Forest, where they got games against FCS Furman, Georgia Southern, this is kind of a trap, wake up and welcome to the SEC moment, where Jackson Dart doesn't have his overall best game, where the rushing attack is very limited because that front 7 that is a big blue brick wall ends up demolishing this offensive line. and they have to go down to the wire, and you're holding your breath if you're a Rebels fan saying, please, not this year. This is our year. This is our moment. I want to be in that atmosphere. The moments when you realize that an upset could occur that nobody is talking about, and I'm not saying it's going to be an upset at all, but if it does, those are the ones that we talk about years on end. I remember when this happened. I remember being on the sidelines. I remember seeing that happen with my own two eyes and feeling the atmosphere be sucked out. My opinion, how do you get much better than that? It's going to be a showcase that everyone's excited to see, including yours truly. Week 6, this is the game that everybody is talking about. The week that most people are paying attention to because you got a lot of good games. Tennessee at Arkansas, Missouri at Texas A&M. I'm going to Gainesville to go watch UCF take on the Gators because one of two things is going to happen, in my opinion. You're going to see a brand new version of the Gators. That this right here is the final boss mode before we actually get to talk like we belong in this conversation. Because there's a scenario where I think that they're undefeated going into this game. They beat Miami. They beat Texas A&M. They hold their own against Samford and Mississippi State. And now you got to get ready for Tennessee. And we know what that matchup is. We know what that game has been for years. So how do you do it? Well, you start by taking down KJ Jefferson, something you couldn't do last year in overtime against the Hogs when you traveled to Fayetteville to take them on after they fired their offensive coordinator. He had 3 touchdowns in that game. So you already know that he can boot, scoot, and boogie like Brooks and Dunn any single day of the week. And he's also paired up with the mastermind that turned Cam Newton into a Heisman Trophy winner by the name of Gus Malzahn, who you know quite well as well. This is a moment where the Sunshine State can actually belong to the Gators, and a very big monumental moment in the history of the Billy Napier era, where you get Graham Mertz to actually be the quarterback that I truly think he is, where you get Trey Wilson to show the world, hey, yeah, I'm damn good. I don't care if I didn't get first all SEC votes. I'm a talented player. And the same thing goes to that defense. Austin Armstrong, rising sensation as a coordinator. People are paying attention. This is also going to be the game where you're throwing everything into the pile and saying, just burn it all down. I don't want to remember this era whatsoever. Week 6, everyone's talking about Red River. Everyone's talking about that game. First time in the SEC. Everyone's talking about Ole Miss. Going to play LSU. Everyone's talking about Alabama, South Carolina. I'm talking about Florida. I'm talking about Tennessee. Because in my opinion, this is one of those games that you have to win if you're Tennessee. Many people are talking about right now the Ryan Day era being an abysmal time in Columbus, Ohio, because of he can't beat Michigan. He can't beat Michigan. He can go to a college football playoff appearance. He can go ahead and get us to a Big 10 title. He can take us to a national championship, but he can't get past Michigan. There is a scenario where Michigan wins the game, but Ohio State wins the war because they beat TCU in a national championship. It's the same thing going on in Knoxville, Tennessee. You got the quarterback in Nico Iamaleava. You got a great offensive line. You got a stellar overall unit, in my opinion, at wide receiver with some newcomers. You also have, I think, a very decent defensive front seven. You have some question marks in the secondary, but you got Graham Mertz on the other sidelines. And this might be the game where you're just saying to yourself, if you're a Florida fan, YOLO. You only live once. Throw them all in there. Just go out. Make this our Super Bowl. Billy, you're already done. Just go ahead and claim the win like you did last year in the Swamp. Do so in front of Rocky Top. To me, that says underrated because everyone's going to be focusing in on Red River. Everyone's going to be focusing in on LSU and Alabama and Ole Miss. I want to see what goes on in Rocky Top. And in my opinion, that's one of those games that you don't want to miss. A week later, we got some rivalries going on. Rocky Top plays host to Alabama, 3rd Saturday in October. One of my favorite games in all of college football. You also get Georgia traveling down to Austin and the 40 acres to take on Texas. And that, my friends, is what you might call a trap game for Texas because of they're exhausted from beating up on Oklahoma. Or the way I see it and the way I've predicted it, Oklahoma beats Texas in Red River, and this is the letdown game that you can't afford to lose, which is why I'm throwing them into the mix against South Carolina. This is a game to where it's easily happening. So Many people know in the history of college football, especially between LSU and Alabama doesn't bring its A game the next week, oftentimes. Most of the situations end up Alabama being a little exhausted from traveling to Baton Rouge, whether it be playing the Tigers in front of the home crowd, whether it be going down into overtime and getting a win. They're not always polished in that game because of what the game means. And that's kind of how I feel for Oklahoma. They may have a great offense at this point. The line may be stabilized. Bill Beatonbow may actually have these guys beaten and bruised, but battle-tested for the SEC second half. Yet their defense lets them down. Maybe a wide receiver bobbles a ball and it lands into the hands of a South Carolina defender. Maybe Jackson Arnold doesn't live up to expectations in this game. And then we get to have that argument, well, what went wrong? They were so good last week against Texas. It happens every single year in these type of matchups. So don't think for 1 second that just because Oklahoma is new to the SEC, they aren't susceptible to feeling the sting that many other teams feel after a monumental game. Week 9, I'm going to go ahead and make a trip on over to Starkville, Mississippi to take on Arkansas. Because again, I think that Mississippi State does win an SEC game this year. Is this the one? You got the fan base in front of you. Sam Pittman at this point might be coaching for his job. He may have already waved the white flag and they may have said he's done at the end of the season. But still, if you're Mississippi State, it's a new era of Bulldog football. You have an opportunity to beat up on somebody that so far I think has the right enigma, but I don't know if he has the right talent around him. And I think the same thing could be said right now going on in Starkville, but you do at least have a quarterback that fits the system better to a T. And at that point, Blake Shapen would have played a million games already in Starkville to where you feel confident that he is poised and ready to handle the pressure of the bell cows ringing through the air. Cowbells ringing through the ear. Again, this has been a long segment, so just bear with me when sometimes I make some mistakes. I'm excited for this game. I think that this is one of those matchups where Starkville, you may hate me, but I embrace you this weekend. I want to be there to see you potentially get a win. The first win of the SEC era in Jeff Lebby. Week 10, how about we talk about another team that's going to be coming off a bye and one that I don't know entirely that much about. Let's go back to Rocky Top and see what goes on as the Volunteers play host to the Big Blue Kentucky Wildcats. Because in my opinion, Kentucky at this point, this might be the game that they hold over the heads of everybody and say, this is why you're not in the playoff. I don't know if Kentucky will get to that 10-win record as we usually are susceptible to. Something about Mark Stoops, every 3 years, he finds a way to get to 10 wins and he pulls off an upset in the process. Is this upset? What if Tennessee feels really good after beating Florida, feels really good after beating Alabama? And yes, they could win both those games. And they come out of the bye and they're relaxed and a little too relaxed. And now you have Deion Walker bulldozing Nico Iamaleava into the backfield. Now you have no run game. Now you don't have your passing attack at its all-time high. Now you get Brock Vandagriff to move and groove in the open field, and linebackers are missing him left and right, and he's waltzing in for 6 points. And then Rocky Top goes silent. And you say, wow, we really can't afford to lose now. Because what if at this point it's a second loss and you know that this is one that may end up actually keeping you out of the playoffs and catapulting another team into the playoffs? I'm just saying, crazy things have happened in college football. This is one of those games I'm not sleeping on. Week 11, going back to Austin, Texas, because it's an early game, ladies and gentlemen. Who knows what the hell Florida is at this point? Maybe they're ranked. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're so awful that Billy Napier has been shown the door and you're just trying to trudge your way through the end of the season. Maybe Graham Mertz is awful and you've already entered the DJ Lagway era. And for Texas, I feel pretty good about you. I feel at this point, Texas has firmly supplanted itself as a favorite in the SEC. I firmly believe that the Longhorns have an identity. I believe at this point as well, you probably know what Quinn Ewers is and what he will be for the remainder of the year. Maybe that's a Davey O'Brien Award winner. Maybe that's a Heisman Trophy finalist. Maybe that's the best quarterback in the damn country for all we know. Or maybe he's benched. I'm not sure. But what I do know is that it's an 11 a.m. kick in Austin, Texas, where the weather, if you know what 11 a.m. is like in even early November, good God. The swamp will not be sweltering because they will understand, oh, we're playing in this normally. Oh, this is just a Thursday afternoon for us to practice. We're all good. And again, Florida could be just saying YOLO. We don't really care. We just want to make you our bitch because we want to show you that it is hard to play in the SEC. That might be the case. It really could. Who's to say on this one? And there's some good games that weekend, but I'll tell you what, Florida and Texas, 11 a.m. kick, vastly underrated matchup. Let's go to week 12. This is going to be another one of those games. Tennessee taking on Georgia. You got LSU at Florida. You got Missouri at South Carolina. But you heard the man himself say it. I believe that Arkansas fans hate Texas more than they like us. What if this is Sam Pittman's Super Bowl? What if this is his national championship? There is a scenario in my head that just continues to play, and I'm not sure if I'm the only person that believes it. But at this point in the year, Sam Pittman's made it clear, I'm going to retire. The university has made it clear they were going to move off him anyways. They don't have a future. So what they're going to do is they're going to agree to part ways at the season's end, similar to Ed Orgeron. And now these players are playing for Pitt. That's all it is. They understand that they're bacon bits. They understand that they're pulled pork sandwiches being ready to be tossed out of the pig wagon. They understand that they're damaged goods, I guess. But you know what? They don't care. They want to play for the coach that brought them in, created a legacy, was a great atmosphere, and just basically like the fun uncle that you sit on your patio at 6 o'clock at night as he's drinking a nice cold beer and telling fun stories back of his childhood. And they want to honor him that way. And they understand it's Texas. We know what we did the last time that they came into this building. We understand what happened the last time that they saw Hog Heaven. They were steak dinner for us. Let's go ahead and have that type of atmosphere. I can tell you what, as somebody that loves rivalries and as somebody that grew up in the state of Texas, and I know how people reacted back in the day when the Southwest Conference decided to say, see you later, Arkansas. I know what this is going to mean to these people. Trust me, on both sides, they want this win. For Texas, it's a win because if they know that they have bragging rights. For Arkansas fans, they just freaking hate Texas. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Week 13, let's head back down to the plains of Auburn because I think at this point, you're going to have two teams trending either in one direction or the other. Auburn and Texas A&M. I think the Aggies at this point have an identity on defense. I think that Nick Scorton is probably one of the favorites to win SEC Defensive Player of the Year. I also think that Connor Wegman has shown the entire world why NFL draft analysts are extremely high on him as a potential superstar. And I also think on the same side, you're talking a lot about this Auburn offense hitting its stride with or without number one as the number one quarterback. That to me might be the biggest blessing of all. You'll understand we got our dude for the long-term future where this guy was able to stabilize his stuff, put together some meaningful drives, get some monumental wins, and now we have a shot of being better than advertised. And so now you get these two to go to war right before monumental matchups for both these squads. One team traveling to Tuscaloosa for their first Iron Bowl in the Kalen DeBoer era, and they want to spoil it the way that Nick Saban was able to spoil Hugh Freeze last year in the plains of Jordan Hare. And then you got the Lone Star Showdown. So don't tell me for 1 second that these two could consider this a trap game because they're looking ahead to beating their team, beating the newcomer. Texas is brand new to the SEC. Mike Elko is new as the head coach of A&M. Auburn is not new to the SEC, but they are going to new battles to face off against Kalen DeBoer. Don't tell me for 1 second that this is a game that couldn't be considered a trap. And honestly, this could be one that also might catapult one team into that late conversation of a dark horse to be a college football playoff contender. And lastly, rivalry week. I think there's some fun games. Here's one that is definitely not going to get brought up because it's not a rivalry. Oklahoma traveling down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm immediately going to that game. You want to know why? Because Jackson Dart said this. I don't believe it's going to be loud. I don't believe that when we score, it'll be a hush around the crowd. Have you seen Tiger Stadium when they play McNeese State at 7 p.m. on a Saturday night? Do you know what those people do throughout the day when they're partying and get ready to watch their Tigers trump everybody? Do you know what that atmosphere is like? Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I believe opinions are entitled for everyone, and there is no such thing as a wrong opinion most of the time, especially in college football. But one of the most egregious ones that I've ever heard is that Tiger Stadium is an easy place to play at night. It's already challenging during the day. You don't think that you're walking into the belly of the beast at night? You're walking into Satan's lair where he is sitting with pitchforks and smiling ear to ear, waiting to watch you grovel for mercy. And so when all these rivalry games are going on, this is a game that everyone's going to be paying attention to. And in my opinion, this may actually have a bigger role for the college football playoff than we give credit to. I'm heading on down to Tiger Stadium to go ahead and watch the Tigers take on the Sooners. So recap, Austin, Texas, week 1, Tempe, Arizona, week 2, Columbia, South Carolina, week 3, Auburn, Alabama, week 4, Oxford, Mississippi, week 5, Gainesville, Florida, week 6, Knoxville, Tennessee, week 7, Norman, Oklahoma, week 8, Starkville, Mississippi, week 9, back to the good old Rocky Top in week 10, week 11, going back to the 40 acres, headed to Fayetteville in week 12, week 13, back to the Plains of Auburn in week 14, going down to Baton Rouge. Toby Keith, God dang it, I almost had it, and I ruined it at the very end. You know what I'm trying to say. Garth Brooks. There we go. Let me know in the comment section down below. Did I miss anything? What did I do wrong? Do you want me to take this actual road trip? Because if you guys help me pay for it, totally will. Totally will take you all out to drinks whenever I'm in the city. Definitely will do that. We can talk to Chris about that actually later. Make sure that also you like, review, hit subscribe, follow us on social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me on social media. Yell at me. Tell me that this is a road trip that is a must that should happen. Make sure that also you're following us on all of our platforms for podcasting. Leave a 5-star review if you love this type of content. 1-star review if you hate this type of content. And to keep up with the #1 source of content, visit SECunfiltered.com. I'm Cole Thompson. Until next time, folks. Later.